Welcome to the Cahao Experience, a virtual field trip to explore Bermuda Petrel's road to recovery after very nearly becoming extinct. We joined Dr. Robert Flood, a petrel specialist, for a 10-day expedition to Bermuda, hosted with Jeremy Medeiros, who for over 40 years led the recovery. Jeremy is the protege of David Wingate, who started the effort to save the Cahao, encouraged as a young man by Robert Cushman Murphy himself and William Beebe, both famous biologists. Join us as we follow in their footsteps for the Cahao Experience, November 2025. Bermuda is an atoll lying 650 miles away from the North Carolina coast at the eastern edge of the Gulf Stream. Cumulus clouds over the warm Gulf Stream current reflect the subtropical nature of this coral atoll, which also lies in the path of Atlantic hurricanes, of which 4 hit this last year: Imelda, Mark, Melissa, Gabriel, and Aiden. That also impacts the Bermuda petrel, the national bird of Bermuda, by hitting and slamming into the fragile limestone rocks that are in the Castle Harbor mouthway, entranceway, usually where the storms are bearing their brunt. All that's left of Bermuda petrel habitat are these few small islands at the edge of the reef. The mainland has all been taken over by invasive species and rats, cats, pigs, and people, which made the bird virtually disappear, except for these rare little remnants of unadulterated rock where the Bermuda petrel could hang on by its toenail.
Actually in St. David's Island, and I was sent to Roger Cushman Murphy, who's the authority in seabirds, and he said, this is the same bird as the remains you sent to us, some fossil remains from caves in Bermuda. This is the Cahao. That was around, that was just before World War II, and then World War II got away. So it wasn't until 1951 that he was able to put together an expedition to Bermuda. So it was him, it was the curator of the Bermuda Aquarium, and David Wingate, who was a 15-year-old schoolboy. They went out looking and they found it, and I think the first year they only found 6 pairs on 2 islands. And it took until about 1960 to find all 17 to 18 pairs of 4 islands. That's all that was left. So I came into David went to Cornell, came back in 1962, started to actually put into place a management plan for them and a management efforts. And I sort of joined the party back in 1984 when I was an apprentice and started working with David with the Cahaos. And then we had the boat handling policy. You didn't ban them, handle them, or hit the nests or anything. You just hook up and that's it. So it was. Then I went to the UK, got my degree and such as well. And then I was a park superintendent for 10 years in the 90s, but I used to work with David on the islands with the Cahaos on such quite a bit. So then when he retired in 2000, I took over. So for the last 25 years now, when he retired after 40 years, he managed to raise them up to about 53 pairs. And when I first started working with him, it was like about 28, 29 pairs. So they had started to go up. And since then, with the translocation to get them on bigger islands, since 2000, they've gone from 53 to 165. So, yeah, they're at the present time increasing as fast as a seabird that lays 1 egg a year per bear, and on average produces 1 chick every 2 years. They're increasing as fast as they can.
Imagine how exciting it was to see the first Cahaos coming in. We took 4 pelagic trips to see the Lazarus bird. They come in at sunset to Nonsuch Island and the small islets in November to reestablish their pair bonds and to fix up their nests and establish territories. They'll depart in December to go feed in the northern part of the Atlantic off of Ireland on myctophids or lanternfish to fatten up, and then return in January to lay eggs and commence breeding for the next 4 months.
Well, that's an old shipwreck. It's an old shipwreck. Yeah, Beebe sunk it there for when they were doing the bathysphere diving.
Really?
And that was their dock. Yeah.
William Beebe, regarded as one of the founders of ecology and one of the 20th century's major conservation advocates, explored the deep sea from Bermuda in a bathysphere in 1928.
It's your first time, and I think you've all already scrubbed your footwear on there, and it's just seawater with a bit of Clorox, and it's to get rid of any soil-borne organisms or fungus problems or whatever. They're particularly these planarium flatworms, which are introduced. They're all over mainland Bermuda, and they eat, some of them eat earthworms, some of them eat snails. They're carnivorous flatworms, and they're even known to eat larger creatures as well. But we have 2 species of critically endangered endemic snails, which were thought to be extinct, were both rediscovered. One in an alleyway in Hamilton, which was so surrounded by the city that none of the predatory flatworms and snails had been able to find them there, and they were just eating air conditioning runoff slime, algae, for probably since the 60s, the 1960s. So, and they were rediscovered right before the alleyway was extensively redeveloped. So it's possible they may not have survived that. But anyway, they were taken to Chester Zoo in the UK, put under a captive breeding program. And everything that wasn't his sister. It was like Game of Thrones, all over again, sort of thing. But I have recorded about 3 or 4 sibling pairs over the years where you'll get, and that's to be expected in a small population. The good thing is, as the population is growing, it's getting rarer. This was the last one I've had, and it sorted itself out pretty quickly too. But I think the fact they returned, oh, what a beautiful nest you built for yourself. Beautiful grass, man. He's a gentle giant with me because I raised this bird as a chick the second year, 2005. He came originally from Inner Pear Rock, and he was one of the very first males to return. Very quickly picked up a partner, and on the hook of their bill, what they do, they sink that in as far as they can, and then they try to rip it out. So you have a triangular puncture followed by a rip. And so I made damn sure that I instead it's like taking a fish hook out in reverse. You just around the bend, like you are not going to rip my thing off.
Ow. And it's hurting a lot more than that.
It's yeah. The volume of the owl was very disproportional to the amount of agony it was causing me at the time. Yeah. That was what you call a very strategic location.
Yeah,
Dredge my memory. I don't ever recall him ever biting me. And he certainly could do damage. Yeah, it's not quite as heavy as he was when he first returned, and he beat up that other male. He was 448 grams. He is down now to 383 grams. So still a pretty good weight. And that's what. Sorry.
Can you get into that we're running genomics for paternity and all that?
Yeah, with this bird, because there is question as to whether Samson is the true father or the other male, we are actually running genetic tests. We've taken blood samples, from the chick last year, and we will from this year too, and we already have from Samson. Yeah, his wing chord is 280 millimeters, 280.
Our visit to Nonesuch Island took a serious turn when we were walking on the top of the island and discovered not one, two, but four dead Bermuda petrels, and not sure who the perpetrator was. Either a peregrine falcon, perhaps, which was on the island, or perhaps a short-eared owl.
Green, and it may have landed on green, we don't know. But
And short-eared owls.
definitely a short-eared owl, categorically.
That's a species I would never have faked from being able to take down like a owl.
If you've got a cow floundering around on the ground, that bird just land on it, break its neck, no problem. I reckon that's your villain. And it's here at this time of day. Exactly when these birds are coming in. Yeah. All seabird enthusiasts forced to stay on normal. Yeah, I mean, actually, this trip is something that grew out of nothing. We didn't actually try and make it happen. After the first year when we came out, we got some nice news from the Bermuda Petrel. So a friend of mine, Mike Danton Vegas from California, said, I'd love to do that. You know, would you go back and do it again next year? So I did 2012. And then we saw we did quite well again. I mean, there were nowhere near the number of birds then that there are now, of course. And then word of mouth spread round, so like 3 or 4 people say, yeah, I'd like to do that. And before I knew it, I was like organising.
Bob had a thermal camera, a monocular that we could use to follow the birds at night. Really cool.
pulsar craft. They both have a good go with it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Jerry Medeiros and J.P. Ruja had set up a thermal night camera inside the burrows to record this beautiful mutual preening experience and to monitor how the incubation period is going for this pair. So they have just returned and are forming their pair bond prior to departing the island and fattening up and then returning in January to lay their egg and to tend their nest for the duration of their period. And so we've reached the end of our Cahao experience in Bermuda, November 2025. An amazing trip to see so many of this critically endangered bird. On the first day we saw over 70. And so now, as we wrap up, we can look at some of the highlights of the birds in flight over the 4 pelagics and 1 night trip that we took. And these pictures will play here for the remainder of this short video. Thank you very much for your attention.